Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Outlook series. So, as always, we always start our weekly outlook on Forex Factory. With that being said, for Monday, we have no high impact folders, but we do have an orange impact folder at 8 a.m. New York local time. For Monday, I'm going to be avoiding Monday and letting Monday do its thing to give me a better look at what the weekly expansion is going to be in the overall direction. So, with the quarterly theory that we abide by. Monday is always the day that you want to avoid. It's basically Q1 of the week. So you let Q1 basically set up the framework for the rest of the week. So Monday I'm avoiding. This is why I'm releasing this specific outlook a little bit later. I'm still doing it before the New York Open on Monday. Depending on what time you're seeing this, you will be able to see that more than likely from now on. I will be avoiding on Mondays. The only way I will be taking or paying attention to on Monday will be on NFP week, where Monday tends to be the better day of the week. But even then, for most weeks, I will be avoiding Monday from now on. On Tuesday, we have news, high impact news at 10 a.m. New York local time. And then we have President Trump speaking at 9 p.m. New York local time, which is basically after the close on Tuesday. So I wouldn't consider that a Tuesday news. That would be something happening during Asia session on the following day. So on Tuesday, we wait for the 9:30 open to give us our direction. And if there's something that the 10 a.m. news wants to give us, we'll be paying attention to that. So Q3 and Q4 for Monday is what I'll be paying attention to. On Wednesday, we don't have any high impact news, but we do have a specific earnings on Wednesday after the close I will be paying attention to. On Thursday, we have high impact news at 8:30 New York local time, which is the unemployment claims. It's one of my favorite news events to have. On this specific day, I will be waiting for the Q3 and Q4 of the New York AM session. On Friday, we have again news at 8:30 New York local time, which is the core PPI, which is not to be confused with CPI. It's not the same thing. So therefore, the date before this specific high impact news can be traded. So I expect most of the volatility to be on the second half of the week, just based off this economic calendar. And I will be going over the earnings that I will be paying attention to this week as well. So here we have the earnings release calendar for this specific calendar week. And I want you guys to pay attention to Wednesdays after the close, which we have NVIDIA have an earnings report after the close on Wednesday, which is why Wednesday, in my opinion, is going to be something that you need to be paying attention to for the morning session. We could be kind of hesitant for that specific day, and which is also another reason why I expect Thursday and Friday to be much cleaner and much more of a clean directional bias after the NVIDIA earnings have been released. So this is how we can plan our week ahead based on the economic calendar and based on the earnings reports for that specific week. So with that being said, on Wednesday, on the morning session, I want everyone to be very cautious. And on Monday, we're avoiding it. Tuesday, just focus on base hits. Wednesday, be cautious. And Thursday and Friday, that's when you can expect the volatility to be in for the week. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the charts. All right, so here we are on the E-mini Nasdaq March 2026 contract. This is the daily time frame. Before I start this week, I just want to go ahead and point out that essentially since October of 2025, as you guys can see, this has been a very tough market to trade. So if you have found any form of consistency or profitability in this environment, you are him or her, depending on who is listening to this specific video. But this is not for the faint of heart. As you guys can see, this is what most people would consider chop, right? Just based off looking at it like this. But when you have the insight and the knowledge to literally predict what's going to happen in the markets, it brings you a certain type of ease when it comes to trading. But that's another rabbit hole that I don't want to get into. All right, so based on last week's price action, this was my invalidation for last week, right? We did wick behind it, but no bodies ever closed below this invalidation. And we still have this monthly S&T that has not been invalidated on the higher. This is basically a higher time frame SMT. Now we have a weekly SMT, and then we also have a hidden SMT with ES here, as you guys can see, noted on the indicators. Now, in my opinion, on the daily time frame, when it comes to the US futures, we are currently out of sync when it comes to the higher time frame and like the middle time frames on the futures contracts. So I have two scenarios pretty much that I want to go over here for this specific week. So we have the same BISI here that we have been paying attention to, and then we have this volume imbalance that we have here when we extend. Now, we also have this fair value gap, and Michael has said himself, ICT has said, when he sees a fair value gap, BISI or SIBI that has a volume imbalance attached to it, he likes to pay attention to both of those specific areas. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and just get that fair value gap in there along with this volume imbalance, make it one specific point of interest that we can be paying attention to. So to make this very clear, on the daily time frame, I expect us to stay between these two ranges until we close above here to then continue higher. And the moment we close above this and the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones also confirm a buy program, and the Nasdaq closes above here with a higher time frame, a middle time frame, and then maybe on the 1 hour time frame we can see some sort of sequential SMT that takes us above this. We would have a higher time frame, a middle time frame, and a lower time frame SMT. And based on what Day has taught in his series, when you have 3 sequential SMTs like that, the third one is the one that you can focus on the most. And that makes it high probability. So with that being said, I, again, since last week, I am still favoring higher price action. This was a tough environment to trade last week, but there were still moves that you could have caught from this specific point of interest almost every single day of the week. Until we close above here and confirm the buy program for everything else, I do expect some sort of chop on the higher time frames. This week, though, can just completely drive forward and continue us into a much cleaner buy program, or we can close below this specific point of interest, which is noted here with the invalidation and this area here. So if we can get a daily candle closure here to invalidate this S&T and then use this specific area as resistance on price, I expect this low here and the November low to be an easy target for sell-side liquidity. And like I said, higher targets are the daily BISI, and then we have this daily SIBI and the previous monthly high as a target if it wants to be overzealous, but I don't see us expanding that much higher for this specific week. But a target that I would be aiming for this specific week is this BISI. So now let's go into the 1 hour time frame just to get a better picture of what I want to be paying attention to this week. All right, so here we are on the 1 hour time frame on the E-mini Nasdaq March 2026 contract. This is what the 1 hour time frame has currently given us as far as data goes. All right, so as you guys can see, Monday was a clear accumulation day. Tuesday was a manipulation. And then Wednesday and Thursday, we had the expansion and distribution phases. And then Friday being the X, which in my opinion did both, where it came to fill 50% of the weekly range, as you guys can see. From high to low, this filled the weekly range, and it also continued. So in my opinion, Friday was a very, very volatile day on both directions. So now that's why I like to wait for Monday to give me the accumulation phase, if it's going to be an accumulation phase, or if it's going to be an X, where it could be a continuation or reversal of the previous week or the previous quarter, which would be we avoid Friday and pay attention to Thursday. So for this specific week, the 1 hour time frame, I'm paying attention to this specific candle here that give us the hidden sequential SMT here. So that we have body SMT here between the Nasdaq and the ES contract, right? So long as that stays intact, you pay attention to this specific candle's range, and as long as price action does not close below here, you can also just use the bottom wick of here if you want. So paying attention to this. If I need to make it a different color to make it stand out, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and be paying attention to this specific range and this sequential SMT. As long as we don't close below this on the middle time frames, we are in a buy program, right? So until we close above this specific range that I've had on the charts now for 2 weeks now, this specific SIBI and Hippo, which is the bottom wick and the top wick of this candle. If you want to go ahead and see a description of what a Hippo is, I did that on my last week's Outlook series. If you want to go ahead and watch that again. But until we close above this range, I expect price to be just anywhere back and forth this range. Again, just play back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Again, another reason why it's good to wait for Monday to do its thing. If it's going to close above here, I expect price to use that as support. So price can either come above, come down, use this as support to continue to this next point of interest that I have here, which is this SIBI, and then do the same thing. Range back and forth in between these points of interest, again, before either closing above or closing below. Now, currently, we can either stay anywhere inside of here, right? Until we close either above or below this point of interest to then continue higher or lower. Let's give you guys points. Let's give you guys both scenarios. Let's go ahead and make this one green. So this is what's currently happening, right? So we are either going to range in between these two areas, or we're going to close above this area and use this as support, or close below this area and use it as resistance. This is what ICT, and again, I keep going back to the same point, where this is where I believe ICT was really just trying to teach us an objective way to find support and resistance. Close above becomes a buy area. Close below becomes a sell area. And there is no other reason for you to make price action any more difficult, right? You can see that we have this sequential SMT. You can see that we are expanding higher. You can see that price is refusing to move lower, even though it's still choppy, even after all this down movement. You can see that on the 1 hour time frame, we are calling for higher price action. Why? It's because we are failing to close below these invalidations. Now we have even further data to base our invalidations even more precisely. Close below, resistance. Close above, support. Once we close above, you wait for your time of interest, which should be the New York morning session. Wait for it to come to this area, some sort of sequential S&T or whatever model that you are looking for. If it's not this specific model that we trade, whatever it is, it doesn't matter exactly what it is. But now you know the point of interest to trade from and where to trade towards. Now, does that mean that you have to hold for this entire 200, 300 point range? No. But an entry can form in this area and then you can catch 40, 50 points, 60 points, 100 points, whatever it is, even 20 points. You know where to enter and where you should be trading towards for the week. Now, I hope I didn't rant too much on the specific outlook, and I hope you found this insightful. With that being said, good luck and good trading.